Welcome back to hour number 2 of Tampa Home Talk. We're glad you're here. Pat is having way too much fun with us this morning.
Yeah, he discovered.
I got a question. I want to. Yeah, you can tell what I discovered in a minute, but I want to ask Adam Talley.
Oh yeah, good luck with that. He's like out there. You want me to get him really, or are you being funny?
Why does he get to go home early, teacher?
He can leave early if he wants. I can't make him stay.
He's actually only a show partner for 1 hour for the 2 every week.
Yeah, technically, we just let him hang out for 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I miss his breathing in the show.
Stop it. All right. So, I have to tell our listeners the backstory. Can I, Pat? Can I give them like the inside secret?
Tell him anything you want about me.
I'm going to tell them what we're giggling about when we come on the air because, so the story is like we have this whole studio built out in our office and we'll talk about we'll have our guest chime in on that in a minute because she hasn't been here, but she's been to the other studio. And, basically, so with our equipment, it's always been so hard to hear Pat, like over the commercial beds or whatever.
We call that the golden years of greatness.
They're just louder than he is, and he has to like yell for us to hear him. Well, we finally figured out with the station engineers how to turn what's on the air down so that when he talks, we can actually hear him without him screaming. So now...
We call that the dark ages.
Yeah, now the jokester that Pat is, he's so funny, he likes to turn it off so we can't hear anything at all. So we don't know when the show is rolling in. We don't know when the commercials are coming. He's totally like, he's having fun with this.
Hey, I give you like a 2-second warning.
Sometimes.
It's fun. You know, I feel like this is Pat's way of like, remember how we were in the studio, he'd always play a bunch of practical jokes and like during the commercials and stuff, he would pop the mics on and make them live so he would see if we would notice and stop talking. So he's doing the same thing only remotely and we can't see him now.
I just miss my laugh tracks.
I remember those good old days when you were in the studio and you used to bring me breakfast.
Oh, yeah,
There's a huge
yeah.
box of donuts here, and I don't think Katrina and I eat donuts. So.
Well, the funny part is Pat's been doing radio forever. Me, only 6 years. And
I'm in the forever category.
Well, the funny part is, like, when I first started at the station, Pat didn't know me very well. He didn't know how much he could mess with me. He didn't know, like, okay, am I going to, like, what can I do? Like, how much do I have to help her? And then he realized, oh, she can manage a show clock pretty well. Like, she's got it nailed. So then he starts messing with me as soon as he realizes he can. Do you remember that, Pat? Like, doing that all the time? I do.
Of course I do.
Yeah. So we would have fun, and then he would be doing traffic. He does when we were physically in the studio, like in front of him. He'd do traffic, and I would mess with him and try to get him to like crack up or like mess up when he was doing traffic. And he almost never did. I think one time I got him, but pretty much never. So anyway, yeah.
Now we've turned into a morning talk radio show.
That's exactly what it's like with Pat in the studio, for real. All right. So without further ado, let's introduce our guest for hour number 2. She's no stranger to Tampa Home Talk. She's been on before. And we're going to welcome back Miss Tiffany Miller with Inventions International. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're back. How was the drive over?
It was good. I got lost a couple times on the way. Even I had the OnStar going, and I still managed to mess that up.
So the truth is the St. Pete studio is probably way closer for her, but
it is. But I liked, it was kind of, I felt like I was driving through, Dover or Plant City. It just like I saw cows on my way over here. I saw cows and like a pasture, and I saw a farm and everything. So it was relaxing. Kind of had my coffee and farmland and.
So you sounds like you took a crazy detour around, but I guess you followed the best traffic route.
Yeah, I took the scenic route, that's for sure.
But we have a little more elbow room in here, don't we?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think this is the third room that I've been in. As far as your studios,
You went to the Clearwater station.
Yeah, I went to the Clearwater one, and then the one in St. Pete,
Beasley
which is I like that. I like that one because it's like right there.
So we're still there, and we're just here.
Yeah. So this is great. I mean, yeah. So this is a nice. I like this one too as well.
So and what about our broadcast mic? These are pretty cool, huh? Like you don't have to get the big boom mic in front of your face.
I mean, I still like that too. So I don't. I mean, but you do this, every day. So I'm sure that you have better, more preferences. But yeah, this works.
It's a lot easier easier because like you can just sit and have a conversation versus like having to pay attention where the mic is. And
True. I see. That's something.
Plus, imagine Pat doing that like remotely would probably drive him nuts. Like
I know. Well, so I like to see him in the other room though. You know, there was like the clear wall, and he's in there, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah, you feel like you were in interrogation.
Yeah.
we miss seeing him too. So, all right, let me talk a little bit about Tiffany and tell you guys a little bit about her background. She is a sharp cookie. She is beautiful, and she has got a heart of gold. And really have got a chance to know you a lot over the years. Really great person, and she's super smart. So you're an attorney also, right?
So I practice patent law, and I specialize in the patent drafting and prosecution of those patent applications before the United States Patent and Trademark Office.
And so your primary thing is you basically help people get their patents up and running, and then you defend them when people have basically...
So what I do is I take somebody's idea. If they have a good idea, an invention that they have, and they want to protect it from someone else making and using that, then they come to me, tell me and a lot of times I'll get their invention details on a napkin.
So I have that great idea I got before you leave.
Yeah, so I know that you were telling me about that. So I take that, I formalize it as per all the federal requirements, get it patent pending, so they're protected, and then I work very closely with the examiner to get it issued into an enforceable patent.
And you make that sound easy when you just say it like that, but it's really not that easy, right?
There's a lot that goes into it. Huge process. It's a whole new world, and it's craziness. But I specialize in that. I do it, practice it every day.
So let's just start for the listeners and talk about some of your top questions that you get, right? And patent's different than a trademark. So let's talk about like, what is a patent?
Right. So a patent is a piece of property. So, but it's not a piece of,
like
real
an
property.
Intellectual idea.
Yeah, it's
right?
it's an intellectual property, and you could sell it. You could sell the rights, which is assignment. You can rent them, which is licensing those rights to a third party in exchange for them being able to make, use, sell, offer to sell within the United States that specific claimed invention.
And so we explained what a patent is. And so I guess let's talk about some of the logistics. Like if somebody has an idea, you kind of went through it really quick, but how do they protect it? Where do they start? And you talked about literally drawing something on a napkin.
Yeah.
How real does that really happen?
So a lot of times they'll have, an idea, and a lot of times, as it relates to in a home, and I'll give you an example with me as a wife and as a mom, I'm always using things, and then my husband says, "Oh, you broke it," and then my husband has to fix it, and then he's trying, and then as he's fixing it, he comes up with ways to improve something, and even that basic improvement is, if you've added something that could be patentable. Also, steps of performing a method of doing something is patentable as well. So as long as you're able to teach the patent office how to make and use something to the best of your ability, or at least you could, tell me and I can help develop that into something that is patentable.
She won't brag on herself, so I'm going to brag on her. They've actually patented some really cool stuff themselves.
Yeah, right? So one of them, and I know my husband always blames me. You're always breaking stuff, Tiffany. You're always breaking stuff. And then
break it so that you can fix it and make money.
I know. I'm an inspiration.
That's
actually.
right.
And so one of the things is, the underwater fish light. It kept, turning. We lived on the canal there, and we enjoy going out in the evening and looking at fish, and it kept breaking. And so my husband's fixing it, and he's like, it really needs, it's producing too much heat. We need an, internal cooling system to help. We need a heat sink. So he made those.
Leo's language.
I know. He made an improvement. I patented all of the novel features for that device in a couple patent applications, and we manufacture those out of our Pinellas Park office. And he also invented universal toner cartridge for printers and all the microchip technology, and we manufacture that out of our Pinellas Park office as well. And we have labs all over the world for those microchip components, but it's kind of neat to get involved with all of that.
Think about that, like if you've ever changed out the toner cartridge, right, in the office.
Right. So the printer has to be able to communicate with the toner cartridge. So it's done via the microchip in there. So.
And that's a lot of the big companies started doing that? They started
So
basically.
yeah, Lexmark, and they were infringing on a lot of my husband's patents. So, we had to go to court. We had to sue them for patent infringement. My husband, won it was a huge deal. And so that was exciting.
I bet. That's where you specialize, right? Like not only getting it in place, but defending.
So
them.
as far as the litigation, so my husband, I don't specialize in the litigation, but I was along for the ride on that one with my husband. So you pick up on, in conversations, when you're sitting in the hot tub with your husband, you think it's going to be all, nice and, talking about, whatever you talk about. No, we're talking about litigation, and so it's not very exciting.
Hold that thought. We're gonna have some more fun with this when we get back right after the break. So stick around. Welcome back. This is Tampa Home Talk. Thanks for sticking around during the break. And we just made the reconnection in the mind for you and Pat. She came to one of our picnics at the park, and Pat had the hose and was like spraying everybody. We had fun. It was a fun party, but we were dodging Pat that one. So it's interesting. You said your husband has how many patents?
He has over 50 issued U.S. patents, and that was when we were keeping track, maybe 5 years ago. So he has a lot more. He was honored by, at the time, Senator Marco Rubio in honor of his great patent accomplishments, and they awarded him with the United States flag, and so we have that displayed in our office.
That's awesome.
Nice. Did he sign it?
Yeah.
With the
Yeah.
box?
Yep. So it was signed and everything. So
how does it work, like with regards to you say United States patent, but is there a way to patent something all around the world?
I get that a lot, and what you could do is file a PCT application, and it formats your United States application to be ready for an international filing with approximately 150 associated countries. However, you would need to seek out a patent attorney in each designated country that you wanted protection in. So I had a client come to me and say, I have a world patent. And, he was going on, and I'm thinking, something's off. So I had to ask a little more questions and to get down to it. And it was, an international PCT, which, you still have to, keep in mind, reach out to patent attorney in that country. And then you got to think about costs and translations. And do you really, do you know Chinese fluently? Do you really want to try to enforce your patent application?
That's one of the things I was thinking, like if you get a patent here, right, we see that pretty frequently, right, where it's just ripped off in China, right?
Oh, absolutely. And especially in the toner cartridge industry, the Chinese are they're buying out a lot of the printing companies here, and it's a shame how they're kind of getting involved and interfering with that aspect. But if, for instance, if they're making and using it in China, they can't import it into the United States if you have a United States patent application. However, they can certainly freely, make and use it over there if you don't have a patent application.
We see that a lot where they try to ship it in through some of these third party.
Right. So you have to heavily monitor, any kind of imports that are coming in, and it's a lot of work trying to enforce that patent.
So you and I talked about an idea that I had, right? We're going to talk about how to make this happen. How do I know if my idea is actually patentable? Like, what makes it patentable or not?
So if it's patentable, a lot of times, you know, what you can do as an inventor is conduct a little search on your own, go on the internet and see what's been done before, if any device has addressed the issue that you're trying to find. What I do is I conduct a more formal search, and I look at issued patents, pending patent applications, also international publications and patents as well could prevent you from obtaining a patent on that. But if you have, more of a general idea and there's a problem that you want to solve, well, we need to find out what device specifically is going to solve that problem.
That's a great place to start. Like you say, something's broken, you want to make it better. You're looking for a solution to a problem and it doesn't exist.
Because there could be many different ways, there could be 100 different ways to solve that problem. But specifically, how are you going to solve that problem? That's where the inventor needs to, that gets into the inventor's job on kind of, figuring the structural components of that specific device or the certain steps that's required.
So what
structural.
What if somebody just has an idea? Who should they partner up with to get those logistics and details down?
You can, depending on what it is you're trying to achieve, I always refer my clients out to mechanical engineers, electrical engineers that might be able to help out with that.
And so have you been involved in any of that stuff like that, Leo?
We haven't gotten too much involved in patents. There is one thing I'm not allowed to talk about because of these NDAs that we're involved with patents, but generally not our bag because it's not building stuff.
Got it. Yeah. But you could, right? At some point, like seeing a lot of the building components and materials, you could theoretically do a patent on how to build or make something better, right?
Like with process. You could win the process.
The way the roof attaches to the trusses, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody made those clips and straps and patented it, I'm sure.
I work with a lot of
Simpson?
That's the name of the company.
Well, see, there you go. That's what I mean.
There's a lot of people in the construction industry that I work with on patenting, new improved devices and methods of, performing a, construction task, so and things of that sort.
So at what point, is your patent protected? What's the steps, and at what point can you talk about it? Right, is a good question.
So because right now the laws are first to file. So whoever files that patent application, the patent first with the patent office, they have the rights to the invention. So you really want to be secretive with that and not disclose.
How long does that take?
It takes as long as it takes you to get the patent application ready, and typically it takes me 6 to 10 weeks to draft that. But I understand that there's issues that come up. Maybe there's a trade show, or the client has to disclose for some reason, and I'll work with them. And so maybe 1 to 2 weeks. If necessary, if I drop everything and focus right on the application, because it's very important to get it filed.
How big are those? Like how many pages, how much detail goes into those?
It's a lot of details. Typically, anywhere between 10 to 20 for something, 10 to 20 pages for something that's fairly simple, and it can go on, and also with the continuations and add-on, it could be hundreds of pages, total. But you definitely want to get that patent application filed as soon as possible. When it's filed, when we've taught the patent office how to make and use the invention along with all of the drawings, because we have to show, illustrate all of those, then you're patent pending. And we utilize the electronic filing system. So literally when I press enter, it gives you your patent application serial number. You have a patent pending status, and then you can tell all your friends.
Then you can start talking about it and figuring out how to make it. Can you tweak it at that point?
You can still tweak it to some extent. When I draft the application, it's broad enough to encompass those changes that you might experience when making a prototype, and there's going to be small changes you'll have to make. And so it's broad enough. However, if you add something completely structurally different that we never disclosed in the original patent application, it could be considered new matter.
So can that be updated, or you have to file another patent?
Well, the way it's updated is a continuation in part, which is a new patent application with all new associated costs. However, keep in mind, it's expanding your patent portfolio.
So how much do those cost? Like, what's the cost for you to do it? What's the cost to actually file it?
So typically the patent drafting costs start at around maybe $3,200, and it goes on up to maybe to $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, depending on the complexity. Because you could patent a simple widget, a coffee mug or a pen, and then it goes on up to, patenting, engines, and then microchip components, and so it's chemical compositions and drugs in the pharmaceutical industry. So it's the more complex, the more we're talking about it, and it gets really detailed.
Does the drafting include the filing fees, or is that additional?
No, the governmental filing fees are additional depending on your fee category. So they have small entity, they have discounts, and so it's approximately $430 is for the micro entity for your governmental filing fee, their search fee, examination fee. So their cost, and that's their fee, and then you have the legal fees. Formal patent drawings will cost you anywhere between $200 on up, $200 to $1,000, I would say, if it's a simple invention. So realistically, you're probably looking at maybe $8,000,
And is this where a lot of people like to fund these ideas? They'll put them on Kickstarter or whatever, like after they get the initial patent in?
To fund it, a lot of the clients, if they're not self-funded, then they have sponsors or business partners. They find investors.
I don't need a patent for my idea. Kickstarter. That's the way to get it stolen.
So they find investors, family that will help cover the cost, because there's definitely costs involved. And
I was thinking, Leo, when I said that, like the basic draft patent would have to be filed.
Yeah.
Right, but then you have more money, because isn't there money to build the prototype and stuff?
Then you have, if you want to, so you don't have to build a prototype if there's different routes to go. You could just sell the rights of the patent application, or you can have someone else worry about manufacturing it, or you can sit back and enforce it and wait for someone else to infringe, or you can go out and make it yourself. And in that case, then you have some hefty fees associated with the prototype development.
Which way is usually more profitable?
I don't know. Gosh, I think
it depends on what it is, maybe, right?
With my husband's experience, I mean, we were definitely making, the microchips, selling them, making, income from that, and then enforcing it when infringers decide to, steal the idea, steal it. They see it and they start making it, and you got to sue them for, triple damages. So there's money all, to be made.
Isn't that hard to do though?
It's fun though. Just
You're telling the attorney, is it hard to...
Yeah. Well, we get paid to argue. That's how it is, right? It was interesting. We'll talk about some of your conversations, because I think it's just fun, right? Like you say, when my husband and I get together, like I'm trying to relax and not talk about anything, and he wants to talk about like how we're going to protect this or invent that.
Yeah.
All right, you listen to Tampa Home Talk. I'll give you our off-air number when we come back right after the breaks. Stick around.
Good morning. Welcome back. This is Leo Cannyn with Tampa Home Talk. I'm here with Tiffany Miller from Inventions International and Katrina Madewell. How's the migraine doing?
I am feeling so much better than I did an hour and a half ago. I look better too, don't I?
You do.
My eyes are better.
And I'm back to being freezing in here, so the world is correct. They had the heat on for 10 minutes. It was.
The running joke is I'm always hot. Leo's cold every day.
I'm usually on a roof or in an attic, and those are not places that they keep cool.
Not at all. So if you're just now joining us for the show, Tiffany Miller, she's with Inventions International, super sharp cookie. She'll be able to get your idea patent pending. She can help you get it protected and also help you make some money with that patent. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
So you got to tell me a story about some of your coolest things that you patent. Like, what are some of your good ideas that you can talk about?
So, gosh, there's, a lot. So a lot of them, from that are not my husband. That's why I always talk about my husband's, because a lot of them I can't legally talk about.
Oh, okay.
But they are public on my website. If you go to Meet Miss Miller under portfolios, you can see I have at least 50 of issued U.S. patents and pending applications that are made available to the public. So you could check out some of the really cool stuff that I've worked on. It's, really neat. I work with a lot of doctors, physicians on medical devices.
So that's where their ideas come from, as a gap that's missing in whatever they're doing?
Right. When it comes with the doctors, they're, in research, they're researching new ways to help their patients, and they come up with, they don't have a device, so they create a device. And I work with a lot of companies that need new devices for their company. Like that's what they, the product development.
Where do people get stuck the most between the idea and getting all the details presented, like figuring out the how-to? Because unless your brain's like Leo's, right, where you're wired like an engineer, most people are not.
Exactly. And so that's kind of where I come in, and, because I'm a PhD student in electrical engineering.
Oh,
so I went back to school so I could, get the formal training on that, because a lot of my clients do come to me with the idea, and they're just regular, people, and, they're not big corporate entities. They don't have scientists and labs. They're just a regular person. They come to me and they need assistance with that. So now with my background, I'm able to assist with that. I'm able to make it happen. So I'm able to understand the structural components that would be required of that device to accomplish their goals.
Nice.
I bet you run into stuff all the time, Leo, like in homes that could be patent, right? Like things that could be improved or changed or made better.
Yeah, but I always think that if I've come up with a way to make something better, someone else already has done it and has a patent on it.
Yeah, I would imagine it's a common misconception, right?
That is a misconception, and there's huge opportunity, in front. And I keep giving the underwater fish light. That's the only thing I can talk about is underwater light, but it's you would think that someone already came up with an improved underwater light, and how about having the water go through the light housing instead of just around it to help prevent it from getting shorted out.
I've always been of the mindset that true invention is far and few between. Like you look at the fax machine, or you look at the cell phone, or the pager. I mean, the stuff that those communication items, but yeah, a true invention is hard to come by. I think.
So those were huge milestones to advance, the experience of the human life, when you're talking about phones and things, things of that, and the internet. But
think about the cell phones. Like, look how far we have come in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, the razors made a comeback.
I know, but think about it. Could you imagine or think for a minute, for one, before cell phones, that you would actually be on this portable device that wasn't like a cordless phone that you could walk anywhere with?
Yeah,
and then you could touch it, right? And the stuff we can do.
So technology is advancing, and we're constantly coming up with improvements, how to make it better, and that's certainly new. That's new, useful improvements.
Didn't I see someone had a phone that folded into fours and it opened up to a tablet?
That's a Razor.
Was that the Razor?
The new Razor. It's like the old Razor that folds in half, only it's got a screen on the front, and then when you open it,
goes four.
And you can't see the line. You can't see where it separates. It's just seamless.
That's pretty crazy. Was that Motorola?
Yeah, it's Motorola.
And then they're coming out with those bendable phones that you can just kind of bend with the whole 5G revolution. So those are going to be the new future phones.
But that just goes back to what I was saying. In my mind, it's not a new invention because the OLED technology, which is basically plant-based, you're looking at a plant-based screen basically. I saw that a decade ago. It's not new in my mind.
So
it's not always new, right?
What it has, as per the federal the USPTO, all the rules and regulations, they state that a new invention, you have to at least add one feature. So as long as you've made one improvement, at least one feature. For instance, the guy that invented the bucket, and then someone comes along and makes an improvement, they want to put a handle on the bucket. So the guy that added the handle to the bucket, that's a new invention. As far as the United States Patent and Trademark Office is concerned. And
so think about that. Somebody makes
really
the bucket.
Easy to rip ideas off then.
Well, but think about it's exactly what she said earlier, where if she breaks something or whatever, it's a matter of making it better. So the person that made the bucket made it obviously to hold something, but then at some point the bucket was full of water and somebody thought, oh, this is really awkward and weird to carry. Wouldn't it make sense if we just put a handle on the bucket, right?
Yeah. That makes it patentable, adding the feature, but then you have to think about, it's infringement aspect. So in order to not infringe on the guy that invented the bucket, you have to at least delete a feature of the bucket. So you have to think about.
So what do they delete?
You have to look at the claim limitations as far as, and also did they even file a claim? The guy that invented the bucket, did they even file a patent on it? So then you have to look at the claim limitations to determine that.
So that explains why iPhone keeps adding a camera. They're up to 4 cameras on their camera phone now.
Oh, you're right. My son.
Hey, we can put a patent on this. It's got an extra camera.
I know. Gosh, my son showed me that, and he's like, "Oh, I think there's 3 on the new iPhone.
It's 3 on the front, 1 on the back.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. One for close, 1 for far, 1 for zoom, 1 for I don't know.
There's a lot of people were talking about the 3 cameras though on the back, and it's creepy to a lot of people. It's like a cyclops.
It looks like an eye. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
I want to see the memes on that.
No, they literally they had to redo that. They pretty much abandoned it as soon as they could because people were pulling away from it. They didn't like it.
The 3 eyes like this.
The three with a 1, 2, 3 in a triangle.
So they're doing away with that.
They were saying that the sales were not good because people were freaked out by it or they didn't buy it. It was a whole thing. I think about some really cool inventions and ideas. I'll give you a great example of something that comes to mind. Look at Disney with their bands. They have the bands.
Oh, the RID
and
bands?
not only is that your your park pass, right, to get in. It's not a little card anymore, but it opens your hotel room door.
Yeah, I think it's the RFID chip.
Yeah,
is
they've
in
had
there.
that. That's
Yeah.
another thing they've had for decades.
Well, if you combine it,
pretty cool.
so if it's a new useful combination of elements,
is,
So
yeah.
it's maybe or maybe the band has a certain feature that they structurally added to it. So it gets in very deep on what's
So could I patent using blockchain instead of for cryptocurrency, using it for inventory management?
I think that's a great idea.
If you change just the use, for instance, if someone has, the bucket that invented the bucket and they want to fill it with, sand, and someone else wants to fill the bucket with, fruit or something, it's still, you can't just change the use of it because the patent office looks at the structural configuration of it. So it doesn't matter what it's used for. It's the structural features.
So someone's adding a handle on the bucket and they're changing the lip around the edge, right?
Right. Or if they want to add a spigot to the bucket, or if they want to change that shape of the bucket, the contoured, features of the bucket.
What if I'm the first person to come up with the lid for the bucket? Yeah, I don't have the patent to the bucket, but now
Yeah,
I'm
so then that would be
Is that
an
patentable?
added feature. So the lid is an added feature.
So I could patent the lid
Yes.
and then sell my idea
For
to
the
the guy
bucket.
that made the bucket.
Right. Exactly. So then now the guy with the buckets that invented the bucket is now there's a huge demand for the lids and they need your lid. So it kind of, that's how it works. That's how technology, evolves. Yep.
You actually know someone, he invented, you know that when you're driving down the highway, those little reflectors? I know the guy who invented that. He gets 5 cents a reflector.
That's awesome.
Just think about how many reflectors you see.
So how does that, is that normal? What can you expect in terms of payment? And I guess it depends, right, on whether you license it.
It depends on the market.
So his 5 cents, you think he's licensing it or?
No, he just makes 5 cents. He makes a killing.
That?
So the way that works is, you have, for instance, my husband has his microchips. Lexmark comes along, uses the microchips, or whomever, the competitor, any competitor uses the microchips, and my husband, then you say, look, you write him a letter and say, look, I own the patents on that. You need to pay me a royalty. I can license the technology to you for this amount of money. And a lot of times they'll
What does that look
disregard
like?
it.
The licensing fees and the royalty
It just depends on your business needs. It just depends on the market and how you have it structured. And you have to also take into consideration, especially with the microchip components, there's a lot of money that goes into research and development because you have to
Sure.
pay for all of the, years to develop the technology. So it can be very costly in the microchip industry. Now, for other industries, maybe not. And you got to think about, prototype molds. You don't have molds for the printer chips, but for a bucket, for instance, there's a lot of money that goes into research and development. You have to take that into consideration on the cost of licensing. So, but you can certainly, license that out to a third party. Will the third party pay you? A lot of times, no, and you have to sue them and force
So
them
they
to.
ignore you. And
They will ignore you. They will absolutely make your microchip and not pay you a dime until you enforce it, until you sue them.
how long does that process take?
It could take years. And, I've been through it with my husband and every step of the way. And, I've heard nothing, but I'm kind of glad that is over. But you're constantly, when you're an inventor and that's what you do, you have to constantly enforce the patent. And that's how you make money from it. That's how it becomes valuable.
So how old are your kids now? How old's the oldest?
He's 10, and right now he's at the Anderson Race Park practicing for a race tomorrow. So he's a go-kart
racing,
racer. He's
huh?
a go-kart,
Yeah.
and it's my daughter, Stephanie, she's 5. She races too, and she goes like 50 miles an hour in those things, and she's 5. So
And the baby?
and then we have the baby, baby Shelley. She's 11 months old. She'll be
gosh.
1. Well, she'll be on the 30th. So
That happens so fast.
she's standing up in her crib. So
I see your kids inventing something to go with the go-karts or inventing something to...
yeah, I mean he's with the mechanics and they're pulling things apart and they know about all of the components. So
Is his science fair project go-kart related?
well, actually he usually takes engineering class on Fridays and he misses a lot of Fridays because of the racing. So they're letting him substitute the engineering requirement for his experience on the track. So that's
Wow.
kind of neat. Yeah.
That's pretty
Yep,
cool.
yeah.
All right, this is Tampa Home Talk. Our offer number is 813-377-2775. 813-377-2775 if you want to connect with Tiffany. We will be back right after this break. If you got questions, you can also send them there too. We'll answer them on the air. 813-377-2775. Back in just a moment.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. This is Leo Cannyn with Tampa Home Talk. I'm here with Tiffany Miller from Inventions International and Katrina Madewell with Keller Williams and Tampa Home
She's
Talk.
sharp, isn't she?
Yeah, I like this. The electrical engineer, PhD student. I mean, yeah, what's not to be smart?
I thought you would have like a bazillion questions for her, Leo.
I don't. I'm just in awe. She's smarter than me. I'm not the smartest
Oh,
person in
that's
the room.
why you don't want to talk.
I'm not the smartest person
I
in the room.
knew it.
anymore.
I knew there was something.
Self-admittedly.
I can't even believe it.
What, that I admit that I'm not the smartest person in the room?
No, but I thought you'd have like a bazillion questions. Really?
I still can't wrap my mind around the fact that in my mind we've had so few true inventions.
Initial inventions.
We've had some slight improvements, the adding of the handle, the adding of the lid, but we have very few actual inventions.
Well, think about it. If somebody just did one invention and nobody ever improved it, it would be boring. Like you would still be, I don't know. What's an example of something you broke that you want to fix? Any idea?
So something recent. I mean, that's a good one. You
a
just
kitchen
put me-
gadget? Like,
There's always. I feel like there's always something.
The
I know.
unitaskers in the kitchen, like you got the sous vide machine, you have the egg boiler, you have these one-off, I guess, inventions that are only useful for one application, and they take up so much space in the kitchen. First thing I'm throwing in Pat's sinkhole.
see, there you go. A kitchen appliance that does a whole bunch of stuff. There's an invention.
Yeah, but those exist too. There's one right now that is a sous vide machine, an air fryer, a pressure cooker, all in one.
I know, but you can always make it better. And you have an invention. So what's one thing that you would make better? Like in your world, what would you fix or change? What's broken?
In my world.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, everything I can think of is there. Like I'd like my couch to be a massager and a heating chair all built into one, but that exists.
No, I mean like in the inspection world.
Oh, in the inspection world. I would like a very easy way to inspect crawl spaces, actually, because we have drones for above to do roofs, but crawl spaces, I mean, other than sending a robocar under there, which could get stuck, I wish there was an easier way than strapping a camera to a mouse and sending it under the house. I'm being serious.
There you go.
But I don't often go through my day thinking, mainly because I'm too busy, but I mean, like, oh, if there was only an easier way to do this.
Well, I tell you, like just like we talked about, especially in Florida, right? With the issues that we have with the way buildings are built and roofs are attached. I mean, sure, there was a roof. Back to your point, the initial invention was there, but it wasn't practical for living in Florida. Right?
Yeah, I mean, there's shingles that can be used as solar panels right now. There's no tile roof that can be used as solar panels.
So look at it, electricity. Electricity, that's a prime example,
Yeah.
right? You originally had like the knob and tube wire, like where you screw in the fuse. Can you imagine if that never got improved? Think about all the changes since that time, right? Cloth wiring.
Yeah, I mean, there's improvement. So when it comes to,
but they're all improvements.
in
I
a
want
home-
invention.
well, you're looking for more of like a milestone that's going to revolutionize society. You know,
Yeah.
things like that. You
That's
know,
to
like
change the world. That's what he's saying.
like
The helicopter.
like
for
another
instance.
Einstein coming out there. I mean, but in all actuality, it's just regular people living their everyday life, saying, "Hey, I'm, taking a shower, and or maybe you have a problem with an elderly person getting dressed, and maybe you want to create a device that makes their life a little bit easier, and
A robot.
you create something, or if you're in the shower, and you have a hard time,
See, there's your breakthrough. You
You
can
know.
just make like the stuff we would see on the Jetsons 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, I could just make something slightly better. That's not invention in my mind, but I mean there are patents on stuff that are slightly better. I'm thinking milestone. I want milestone stuff.
Like?
I don't know. If I knew what it was, I wouldn't say on the air. I would
You'd
get you
make
here
it.
after the show.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of stuff, in my mind, and it's hard to, talk about it because it's,
You're like, wait, I want to patent that.
well, it's just that a lot of things, my clients have kind of touched on a lot of those areas there. So I want to comment on it.
So real quick, what's the difference between when you think about trademark? How is that different from a patent?
There's a lot of there's so many differences that there's patent attorneys that specialize just in copyrights and trademarks. So I focus just 100% on the patent aspect. So I'm not very familiar. I had
patent more like about design and that sort of stuff, where trademark is more about like
branding,
like a logo, a logo and things like that. And I actually recently, so the patents are if you want to protect a device, the steps of manufacturing that device, the way it looks. So if it performs a function, then that's a patent. And copyright is, if you have maybe written literature. And
like when I was in a band, we copyrighted we trademarked the band, and then we copyrighted all the songs
how would you
wrote.
feel if you spent so much time developing and making something, or you wrote, a paper or an article, and how would you feel if someone came along and just took it and claimed it as their own? So you need to, that's one of the steps the first steps that an inventor must make is they need to stop and think about it. How would they feel if someone came along and saw what they spent and it's a lot of times it's their livelihood. They put all of their sweat and tears and just everything into that device or into that paper that they've written, and someone comes along and just takes it, and it can be devastating.
I remember there was one guy that I had a great relationship. He lived in South Tampa, and he was always like inventing this thing. I don't even know what it was, but it was some type of machine that the military could use for communication when they were in the field with no service.
A walkie-talkie.
No, I was like, I don't know, it was different. And I think like that's an example of what you're saying. Like I remember him spending like blood, sweat, tears, like years worth of that. And I don't know if it ever came to fruition. Like I don't know where it got hung up, right?
Yeah.
But I could see the guy like going bankrupt doing it.
Yeah, I mean so it's very important to protect your intellectual property. Also is, because there's so much money and time and emotions that go into developing a product, and a lot of these companies when they're making, the toner cartridges and the printers, and then you have to pay your staff and you got to pay for materials. I mean, it's just a lot in developing, that technology, and just for someone to come along and take it and then they didn't have to pay for all that research and development. So then that's why it's really important for the inventor or the patent owner to stand up for themselves and stand up for their rights, and you can sue them for the damages.
So going back to the most basic principle, right? Somebody just has the idea and they want to make it happen. Their cost association would be at least $3,000 or more, depending on the idea, just to draft it and get all the details in there.
Right, to formalize it and get it, so because everything it's as per the Manual of Patent Examination Procedure, everything is federally regulated.
So the work that goes into getting it there, the filing fees with the state, which are a little under $500,
right,
or with the U.S. Patent Office.
Yep.
And then research and development.
And then you have the formal patent drawings too, which I would probably reserve between $200 and $1,000 for.
All right. Well, this is Tampa Home Talk. If you want some more information and you want to connect with Tiffany Miller to figure out how to make your idea come to life, 813-377-2775. We'll get you guys connected. 813-377-2775. Remember, love where you live. We're going to fix it. Welcome home. Have a great weekend. Merry Christmas.